missing some of the players on his staff, but he's brought in 4 battle-hardened Australians, Mark Bell and Danny Moore in the three-quarters, hooky Robbie McCormack and prop Tony Mestrov. Jason Robinson has scored a hat-trick in both the previous 2 rounds, which brought easy wins, and therein lies a potential problem. Wigan haven't been fully tested yet. That's not the case for St Helens, who were pushed hard by Warrington in the last round. Their team is unchanged. Paul Aitchison and Bobby Goulding are former Wigan players. Prop Julian O'Neill was released by John Mooney when with Auckland, and the half-back pairing of Goulding and Tommy Martin may well hold the key to a door that usually stays firmly locked. The team's ready in the dressing room corridor. St Helens, as you can see, arranging their change kit today. It's a tight squeeze down there. And St Helens leading the way. Andy Farrell, the Wigan captain, juggling the ball there at the front. Here comes Chris Joynt, holding a cup of tea in his left hand. Well, that's no indication that he'll be particularly relaxed, as the 2 biggest names in rugby league take to the field for this second quarter-final of the 1998 Silk Cut Challenge Cup. And they do so to a rapturous ovation. If you were a salesman, this would be easy to sell. This is no double glazing product, this is caviar by comparison. Everyone wants a piece of it. And significant news from the substitutes benches, because among the Wigan replacements is Dennis Betts, back after 3 years with Auckland and back from a major shoulder operation. He's won the Challenge Cup on 7 occasions. For Saints, significantly, Apollo Perellini, man of the match in the last round, is also available to come on when required. Andy Farrell, the Wigan skipper, just 22 years of age, but already with more than 1,000 points to his credit in Wigan colours. He's actually been training as a standoff for much of the week, just in case Henry Paul didn't make it. Paul is one of 3 Wigan players with significant injury question marks against their names. And Bobby Goulding and Chris Joynt discussing matters. They are 2 of the key figures for St Helens. Chris Joynt, another man who lives in Wigan and has taken some considerable ribbing in the course of the week from his near neighbours. Well, alongside me is a man who played for Wigan in 5 cup-winning teams, but who, by his impeccable behaviour, showed himself always to be a saint as well. And that's Joe Lydon. Joe, where's your money?
Well, not being a betting man, John, and actually not want to sit on the fence normally, although it is true that I have had a few splinters in my backside in the past. I think one thing to say that it'll be easy to predict today is this is going to be an absolute cracking game. It was Mike Gregory, the assistant coach from St Helens, who said it'll be like a chess game. I would state that I think it'll be a little more physical than that this afternoon.
So your money's on the fence as well?
My money is on the fence. I think home advantage will have a massive part to play in it. But as we mentioned several times during the week, Wigan haven't really had their defence tested, getting the easier route to this quarter-final. Saints having a tough game in the last round against Warrington will feel confident coming here today.
In fact, Wigan have yet to concede a point in this year's Challenge Cup. They won 76-0 at Keighley, 56-0 at Dewsbury, and we can safely predict that they won't nil St Helens over the ensuing 80 minutes. Andy Farrell to get us underway for Wigan. To an enormous roar from around Central Park. Robbie McCormack picking up possession. He's one of the 4 Australians playing at hooker. A gnarled veteran of a player. Here's Stephen Holgate on the first burst forward. And immediately the intensity of the tackling is apparent.
Significant too from Wigan. The norm is to kick off deep, to put pressure on your opposing line by tackling them. Wigan chose to take the short kick off and retain possession right away.
Tony Smith, the former Castleford scrum half, jiggling his way forward. Wasn't held down by Kieran Cunningham, not illegally so anyway. And play continues with Simon Horton. Promising early position this for Wigan. Farrell calling for it. And launching a bomb of a kick high towards the post. Aitchison's underneath it and takes it supremely well. He's passed his first test, the Saints fullback.
Not an easy test either. It was a great kick from Andrew Farrell on the last tackle. They'd gained territory, acres of it, getting down to the St Helens line. Farrell put up the high kick, and as you say, Paul Aitchison took the test. Here's the tension that we talked about and the physical side of the game.
It's the first local disagreement taking place on St Helens' 20-metre line. It was the tackle that was affected by Cassidy, and then the fist started to fly. And there are a few enforcers out there, aren't there, Joe, willing to make a point?
Well, I think it was Mick Cassidy who took exception to Smith using the forearm. These are the tensions that exist in the game, though. It's very early in the game. People are nervous about their own performance and as well as what the opposition are going to do. And you usually find that this is just a settling down period. They were just exchanging quiet words there. There was nothing really heavy went on.
Pleasantries, Joe, pleasantries.
Very pleasant.
So St Helens can emerge from their own half for the first time with Julian O'Neill. Dennis Betts sitting on the bench and waiting for his moment to return to first-team colours with Wigan. And we can go down to the touchline for the early views from Richard Duckenfield.
Well, not surprisingly, there was a huge reception for Dennis Betts when he took his seat on the bench back from Auckland Warriors after his shoulder injury. And the going here, well, the pitch described it as good to soft. There was quite a lot of rain here on Thursday. The players will relish the conditions.
It'll be a scrum on the Wigan 20-metre line. Put in by Smith, takes the ball as well, and then players switch by Henry Paul towards the fullback Chris Radlinski. Tackled by Andy Hay. Moore at acting halfback. Now Jason Robinson, his first chance for a little trundle forward. If you could ever say that Jason Robinson trundles. Cassidy. Horton. The two St Helens eyes looked towards the referee asking if that was forward. The answer was no. And he wasn't held either. This is Robbie McCormack. McCormack, who captained Hunter Mariners when they came here and won in the World Club Challenge at the back end of last season. Now Robinson bursting through and taken by the collar by Brett Goldsmith. It doesn't immediately let him get up. McCormack to Tony Smith, and now Farrell. He's got three outside him. Farrell tried to sell a dummy but was taken man and ball by Chris Joint. Last tackle. And it's Tony Smith with the kick. Mark Bell pursuing it through. Aitchison's across and takes it before Bell takes him.
It was a very narrow margin, very narrow indeed. Paul Aitchison just got across to the kick. It was a perfectly weighted kick. As we see it race towards the try line now, it's not too far away of Bell as Aitchison collects that ball and goes into his in-goal area. This will result in a dropout by St Helens and give the ball straight back to Wigan. I think to be true to say, John, that early on in this game, Wigan have showed exactly what they intend to do throughout the rest of the match, and that's playing an attractive, open game. They've certainly played the more adventurous stuff so far, but I think it's also true to say that they've had the majority of the possession.
The dropout lands on halfway, and immediately charging forward is Tony Mestrov. Another of the Aussies signed from London Broncos. It was Tommy Martin that took the dropout from beneath the post. Holgate bouncing off Kieran Cunningham. McCormack acting halfback. Tony Smith. Powerful little runner, Smith. Within 12 metres of the St Helens line. This is Andy Farrell. Only one player outside him, who was Bell, and he couldn't offload the ball. Cassidy. McCormack. He's got Holgate to his left shoulder. Last tackle. To feed it to Danny Moore, and the ball's come back somehow, but it's been intercepted by Chris Smith. The Saints would have got the ball back on the handover anyway, and now they have it with Newlove, who can't release it to Sullivan.
St Helens will be relieved with that. They've managed to contain Wigan on 2-3 occasions now, close to their own line with good defence. This time Smith comes in and collects the ball, and if that pass had gone to hand, I dare say there would have been a try there for Wigan.
Sculthorpe. Such intensity about the opening 5.5 minutes of this 266th contest between Wigan and St Helens, and the 22nd to take place in the Challenge Cup. Kick from Goulding over the shoulder of Robinson, two bounces and collected by Jason Robinson. The reception committee awaits.
That was a good kick by Bobby Goulding. But it's always true that your kick is only as good as the chase, and that's definitely the case when you kick to Jason Robinson. He is so elusive collecting the ball, even deep inside his own territory. It will cause problems for any defensive side.
Farrell over halfway to Tony Smith, who couldn't collect the pass, and it's picked up for St Helens by Aitchison.
That was the adventure we talked about there with this time Farrell going through. He knew Smith would be on his shoulder, turn the pass inside, and again, if that ball had have gone to hand instead of being lost to ground, then there could have been a try on that catch.
Sullivan, the Saints player, tackled. These sides separated by a mere point in Super League competition last season. Wigan, having won the Championship 7 years in a row and the Challenge Cup 8 years in succession, have had a couple of relatively fallow years by their own very high standards. Standards that no one else can match. That was a forward pass, which Chris Joynt couldn't hold anyway.
Yes, the referee in perfect position here. That ball travelled forward in the pass, and therefore the referee will adjudicate a scrum.
And we have Mick Cassidy coming off to the blood bin. He's got a nasty gash, which is going to require some stitching. So Wigan will have to rearrange their forces. A blood bin doesn't count as one of the 6 substitutions that either side is allowed to make. The Wigan doctor being called into early action. And on comes Lee Gilmore. Stuart Cummings, the referee, asking for things to be speeded up a bit. But young Lee Gilmore on in place of the incapacitated Cassidy.
That's an interesting substitution as well for the blood bin. Gilmore, who started his professional career as a centre, John Moore has identified the fact that he has got the size and the ability to play both in the box, the three-quarter line, and also in the forwards.
Farrell's kick.
Wigan team doctor, Dr. Zaman, took one look at Mick Cassidy's gash between his eyes and took him straight off to the treatment room, no doubt for a set of stitches.
McCormack. No points on the board. This is Holgate, who ducked underneath the tackle. Smith. Got plenty of movement around him. This is Farrell, who was tackled by Carl Hammond. Every tackle met with a roar of either approval or disapproval from the vast crowd on the terraces, and it's intercepted by Tommy Martin, who desperately needs support. He's got some inside, but he couldn't release the ball before the tackle came in. St Helens desperate to move it quickly though. Joynt to Bobby Goulding. Farrell still retreating for Wigan. This is Aitchison, the fullback. Hay. Julian O'Neill. Saints had a decent workout in the previous round when they were pushed all the way by Warrington, and that may well serve them in good stead today. Goldspink. Cunningham waiting at acting halfback to Bobby Goulding. Run around move, bringing New Love into the line. New Love gaining just a metre or so, and it's the last tackle. Will it be Goulding with the kick? It will. Reverses the angle, but Wigan were not deceived by that.
Another planned move by Bobby Goulding. A tactic we saw in the previous round where they played Warrington, the reverse kick, back for his attacking teammates to collect, but this time the ball a little bit too strong and runs dead over the in goal.
Sheffield Eagles already through to the last 4, and one enormous name is going to go through and another one is going to drop out. This is Jason Robinson, unique in his style of running. Tony Smith. Smith, who played in the 1992 final against Wigan for Castleford and, needless to say, ended up on the losing side. Farrell. Kick landing straight in the grateful arms of Chris Smith, who was then met, if that's the right word. It's not really forceful enough to convey the full sound of the tackle, which could be heard around the ground, but he was met by Danny Moore. Joynt. Lee Gilmore made the tackle. Sculthorpe, the most expensive forward in rugby league. Cunningham.
Keenan running strongly from acting half-back, showing no signs of a groin strain, which he's been bothered with over the last couple of weeks.
Sixth tackle, Goulding. Dispatches the kick well.
Sensible kick from Goulding here, just turning the Wigan players round, making them retreat and also have the scrum, giving his own forwards time to have a rest at the scrum. It has been a frenetic start to this game.
Henry Paul, and now Danny Moore. Moore, the Australian Test player, he won 4 caps for them. Nearly lost the ball, but juggled and held on. Farrell. Is this typical of the opening quarter of an hour of Saints Wigan games, Joe, in your experience?
Definitely. You know, they're always intense games. There's a period where you have to test the opposition. I think it's truthful to say that Wigan have been more adventurous than I first expected. I thought they would come out here and play some sensible possession and percentage rugby, but instead, as they are showing now, they've chose to put the ball through several sets of hands every time they've got it and really test the St Helens defence.
The end of another set of 6. Farrell's kick, one bounce and into touch.
This time it's Andrew Farrell's turn, the Wigan captain, to put the kick downfield, make the St Helens players retreat, and once again the result is a scrum.
Paul Aitchison, the Saints fullback's been a fairly busy character in the play we've seen so far. Do you think Wigan are testing him out, former Wigan player?
Well, they know all about Paul's abilities, and I think they'll just try and tire him out, because they also realise that he's very, very good on attack, and the more work he has to do on defence, obviously will sap the legs.
Chris Joint for St Helens, outside his own 20-metre area.
And the forward substitutes on the Wigan bench have all been warming up. You wouldn't be at all surprised to see Wigan spelling some of their forwards, ringing the changes, given that St Helens are supposed to have the more powerful pack, though you have to say that at the moment the Wigan forwards show no signs at all of fatigue.
Goulding's kick sends Radlinski and Wigan in general onto the retreat. Goulding following up. And catching Radlinski, but not before the ball had gone. Mark Bell took the pass and then the tackle from Newlove. Connolly. 1 or 2 boos. Connolly is from St Helens and used to play for them. McCormack. Jason Robinson. A mistake by Robinson.
Uncharacteristic of Jason, in his eagerness to get away from the acting half-back position, casually picks the ball with one hand and loses control for yet another scrum.
And that's
there you
one
have
of 4 Wigan handling errors.
You don't usually see that, although again we must mention the tension and the pressure that results from a game between St Helens and Wigan. A good point that Richard made about the size of the packs and about the possibility of a change. I do expect Wigan to bring Stephen Holgate off after about 10 or 15, possibly 20 minutes into the game, and put a larger player on in Neil Curry. That's usually the trend.
Cunningham. Goulding moving it left to Joint. Tackle was by Stephen Holgate. Cunningham to Goulding, along the line to Tommy Martin, who's got 3 outside him. One of them is Sculthorpe. Mueller. Brought to ground by his opposite centre Connolly. Now Goldspink, the big prop. Goulding launching the high kick. Chris Smith's underneath it. He may bounce out nicely for Carl Hammond. Well, Carl Hammond dived in at the corner as the ball went loose. Jason Robinson got a piece of him. Mestrov. Smith, it was a fairly dreadful pass. We can do well to retain possession. Simon Horton.
Let's have a look at the chance here from St Helens. Jason Robinson's attention in the tackle forced him to try and put the ball down behind his back, and it was a correct decision there from both referee and the touch judge. Downward pressure was not completed.
Farrell. Aitchison looking a little uncertain. Sullivan. Getting outside, Danny Moore. Now is he away? There are flailing arms. Trying to take one of his legs, but he's found Chris Smith, and it's a race between Smith and Radlinski. And it looks to be a race that Smith is going to win. St Helens take the lead with a 60-metre try.
Could we say against the run of play? Certainly Wigan have had the majority of the possession and territorial advantage, but on this occasion it's a fantastic break by St Helens. Anthony Sullivan out of defence, coming out of his own half, a fantastic break down the sideline to result in the try by Smith. As we watch it now, Sullivan steps, goes outside Danny Moore and uses the touchline as his friend rather than his enemy. Has the pace to go past 3 tacklers in total. Waits for Radlinski to make his move. Once he's drawn Chris Radlinski, the full-back, puts it inside to Smith, who's no slouch. The number 14, Chris Smith, just beats Chris Radlinski to the try line. Opening points for St Helens.
And a significant blow struck as Wigan concede their first points in this season's Silk Cut Challenge Cup. Bobby Goulding with the conversion. A former Wigan player, a prolific point scorer. Points become 6. And the Wigan coach, John Money, shifts uneasily in his lofty perch high above the halfway line. This is the first real test of his second spell in charge at Central Park.
He doesn't look too happy, which is contrary to what I believe he will be feeling. He'll be happy with the start Wigan have made. They've showed some great skills in attack and some stern defence, but on this occasion it's Anthony Sullivan, the right wing from St Helens, who gets away from 2 tacklers there. Draws Chris Radlinski, the full-back, in from Wigan. And Smith, you can't stop that lad so close to the line with so much space. Gets over. Great try from St Helens.
So Wigan have something to think about and something to contend with. These sides met 4 times in various competitions last season, and it was 2 wins apiece. In the Challenge Cup, victory to St Helens. In the Premiership final, victory to Wigan. And they both won on each other's grounds in Super League games. St Helens have spent more time in the opponent's half than Wigan.
I wonder if this will make John Money change his option to make the substitute. I know he was looking to make changes after 20 minutes, but having just conceded a try, he may wait a little while now just to settle things down.
Farrell, who is the leader, who has to set the example. Once again testing out Aitchison. Ball bounced away awkwardly from his shins. Connolly and Bell quickly in with the tackle. Now Sullivan, who's run set up the try. 2 or 3 attempts to tackle him were in vain. Newlove. But there may be 1 or 2 Wigan players asking whether they should have ankle-tapped Anthony Sullivan.
I think if a few had been close enough and maybe if Sullivan had a little less speed, they would have completed a full tackle. But it just shows how speedy a winger he is. I mean, all the attention has been placed on Robinson leading up to this match. His opposite number on the wing, but Sullivan showed tremendous pace and skill to evade. I think it was 3 tackles in total.
Goulding. Kicking deep. Taken by Jason Robinson. This most elusive of runners when given the chance. But he wasn't on that occasion.
You can bet that Sean McRae, the St Helens coach, would have done a lot of preparation during the week in training just to contain Jason Robinson. He knows he's very elusive. He knows that he pops up all over the field. Sometimes even his own teammates don't know exactly what he's going to do, and it makes it very difficult to try and contain him.
Danny Moore, the former Manly centre. Farrell. And then Holgate. Henry Paul. Noticeable that Bobby Goulding seems to be struggling. He's actually on the wing on this near side of the field and not in the thick of the action, which is where he would usually be and where St Helens would want him to be, and he is struggling. This is Aitchison. Jeanette Smith, the Saints physiotherapist, is on the pitch and giving Goulding some attention. 20 metres or so away from where play is continuing.
Well, Bobby Goulding is having attention as we speak to possibly a neck or a shoulder injury. I'm not quite sure at the moment. He is having treatment. St Helens will not want to lose him. They did very early in last year's competition. The results
for a different reason, Joe.
A different reason, yes, but the results were right. But this time, I think they'll want him to stay on the field and have such an active part as he normally does.
We just had a glimpse of Mick Cassidy down on the bench there, and we can go down to the bench and Richard Duckenfield.
Well, doctor's a man, the Wigan doctor. How's Mick Cassidy? Nasty cut?
It is a rather nasty cut. It's rather deep to the bone cell. But I had to put up 6 stitches under local anaesthetic. He should be okay.
Can he play again today?
Yes, I'm sure he can play.
Thanks, Doctor.
Chris Radlinski taking the tackle. Mick Cassidy ready to rejoin us. This is Mark Bell. Sean McRae, the Saints coach, sitting behind the posts at the left-hand end of the ground, as is his wont. Andy Farrell for Wigan, who trails 6-0. Danny Moore, who was one of those that got close but not close enough to Sullivan in the build-up to the try. McCormack through the hands of Smith to Holgate to Horton. Slightly high from Julian O'Neill, but then the ball goes loose and Cunningham picks it up for St Helens.
Well, that was actually stolen by Kieran Cunningham. There was only one man in the tackle, and therefore it's allowed. Simon Horton had control of the ball by one arm alone, and that's not enough when you have Kieran Cunningham in close attention.
Newlove trying to break through between 2 Wigan tacklers. Sullivan. Goulding, now restored to fitness. Carl Hammond, Sculthorpe. Julian O'Neill. Here's the last tackle, and it's Goulding with the drop goal attempt, which is wide.
Well, it was one on this occasion. Bobby knows, though, that 1 point could be all the difference. We've said many times during the week and in previous games between these two sides how close the games are going to be. Bobby realises early in the game that 1 point could decide it.
Well, on their last visit here in the Challenge Cup 3 years ago, a 16-all draw resulted, and Saints had 2 drop goals to thank for that draw, one of them from Goulding. Memories of that must have been in Goulding's mind as he lined that up. Neil Cowie is on for Wigan, Great Britain international in place of Stephen Holgate.
And that's the change we mentioned, to bring out on the larger player, just to make some inroad into the St Helens defence.
Very rugged player, Cowie. Here's Mick Cassidy, now wearing the scrum cap. But Wigan will not be pleased at giving up possession like that. O'Neill.
You just get the feeling now, John, that Saints have gained a lot more confidence, obviously through the try from Smith. They are starting to play a more adventurous style of football and put the ball through the hands. I'm sure this was planned part of the attack, that they would keep it close for the first 20 minutes and then start to open it out, but that try has obviously helped.
Perellini for Goldspink, and this is Perellini, man of the match in the victory over Warrington in the last round. Goldspink taking a breather. Sculthorpe's kick and regather. Immediately wrapped up by Jason Robinson's tackle. Hammond only got Smith outside him and used him as a foil, and then is bundled into touch.
Some more great play from Carl Hammond. Retains his place at the loose forward position despite the bye of Paul Sculthorpe in the close season. Some great touches of skill.
Neil Cowie for Wigan. Somehow managed to slip it out to Henry Paul, and now Gary Connolly. Met by Newlove. Henry Paul once again, inside to Robbie McCormack. Cassidy to Farrell. Wigan looking to move the ball. Simon Horton can go no further this time. Mestrov, player of Croatian descent. Look at the kick from Andy Farrell, the Wigan captain. Arcing towards the touchline, bouncing once, twice, 3 times.
Derek Jones, the Wigan groundsman, doesn't let this team train on this pitch too often, tries to keep it in pristine condition, but you wouldn't tell from this kick. Andy Farrell knows exactly where this ball is going. As you say, 3 bounces straight into touch, perfect kick.
Maybe he's got a big back garden and he's marked it out at the same size as the Wigan pitch.
Good idea.
Or maybe not. Saints with the put-in, Goulding. Chris Smith. Lateral run. And got the ball away as well to Tommy Martin. Tackled by Cassidy. O'Neill.
Mick Cassidy back on, that's very important for Wigan. He plays a key role in their defensive structure, usually plays tight in behind the ruck and guards any breaks that may materialise. He excellent player on defence, and it's been a good job by Dr. Zam and the Wigan doctor to put a few stitches in the 15-minute blood bin period. It's not like Dr. Zaman either, might add. Some of the lads refused to cough in his presence in case he took the tonsils out.
Looking at that picture of Mick Cassidy that we saw a moment ago, that phrase, "we can rebuild him," comes to mind. They've done a good job. Sullivan with the kick through, charged down. Newlove took a wild swing and sent the ball spinning into the air, and Cassidy then knocks on.
Well, they've rebuilt him, but obviously not done a good job. He is noted for his defence and maybe not his handling. There are about 3 attempts to put the kick in. They rebounded off the Wigan players on several occasions.
It's a fair attempt at a kick by Newlove, bearing in mind he was virtually horizontal. Saints with possession. Tommy Martin to Newlove.
And any minute now, a big occasion here at Central Park. Dennis Betts will be entering the fray in this game. Dennis Betts coming off the bench as a substitute.
Dennis Betts, who's not appeared in Wigan colours for nearly 3 years.
John Morney, the Wigan coach, admits that this is a bit of a risk to bring Dennis Betts on.
Here's McCormack to Farrell. Good pass to Henry Paul. Lovely dummy inside Hay. Paul still going. Aitchison into the tackle. And Wigan halted temporarily.
It's hard to make comments during the game about anything else but the action. It is so fast and so furious, with the ball going across the pitch from side to side. Here's Neil Cowie now making a break.
But unable to find support. Still, it's a decent position for Wigan, who trail 6-0. Farrell to Tony Smith. Smith to Mick Cassidy, who did hang on that time. Wigan will try and move it left with Farrell and McCormack, the Australian hooker. Switches play once again to Robinson. Robinson with the kick and the chase. Can he regather? Not this time. Andy Hay got down there bravely and well and smothered the ball for St Helens. Chris Smith.
Andy Hay had to be at his best in defence and with speed to get down to this ball. Jason Robinson, again, elusive with the ball in his hand, and also when he puts it to the foot and chases it, he has the speed to get there.
Well, Dennis Betts is about to join us. Hasn't done so quite yet, as Chris Smith brings the ball further clear for St Helens.
We mentioned about Dennis. John Money was telling me before that he is right as far as running goes and fitness, although he's a little bit underweight. He would have liked it to have put a few more pounds on before joining such an important game as this, but realises that with such star quality and such ability, it certainly makes the risk a little less.
This is Joint, who is wearing 11 for St Helens, and very shortly the number 11 shirt will be worn by Wigan's Dennis Betts for the first time in almost 3 years. His last appearance was the Premiership final against Leeds in 1995. Radlinski across. Support from Mark Bell, who's held as soon as he received the ball by a very diligent piece of play. Robinson. McCormack to Radlinski. Again, Andy Haig, who made the first tackle of this sequence. Doing a good job for St Helens. Horton. McCormack waiting. Now Farrell. Saints holding firm in the tackle.
Great proof of the fitness of both sets of players early in the season, but still they haven't dropped the tempo at all during this game. And on walks Dennis Betts. Great to see him return to the game. It was a tragedy really for the Great Britain side when he was unable for the Test series due to that shoulder injury while still playing for the Auckland Warriors.
And Dennis Betts makes his first tackle of his second spell as a Wigan player. 31 caps for Great Britain, 7 times a Challenge Cup winner. Made his debut as a 17-year-old 11 years ago for Wigan. Sullivan. The mere presence of Betts in the Wigan side will give everyone with the cherry and whites at heart a huge lift, one suspects. Cunningham. Betts in again at the tackle, but the ball had gone. This is Goulding, straightening up but not finding a gap. Joint, reverse pass to Tommy Martin, inside to Newlow. St Helens sticking to their task admirably. Hammond, Sullivan. Martin. That's a kick he'll care to remember for too long.
Just to help him with show it again. It wasn't the best attempt, as I think it was a drop goal. I'm not quite sure looking at the result.
McCormack. Betts. You should remember whilst watching a game of this sort of standard that there are 22 full internationals out there. And a similar number of players who have a Challenge Cup winners' medal, at least one to their name, and in Dennis Betts' case, 7 of them. Farrell to Tony Smith. Over halfway, but only just, held by Perellini. Dennis Betts. Didn't have the happiest time in Auckland. Farrell. Past Smith. Gilmore is following up. Ball went over the line before Gilmore can get there.
Well, this is the only time the game slows down, and that's for the scrums after great kicks. It's been such a hectic pace that it's been played at. Another great kick just rolling into touch this side of the line, and therefore the scrum will follow.
Aitchison. Joint. And Andy Hay.
Under 6 minutes left before the half-time interval. This is the crucial time of the game. Both sides and both coaches definitely would love their teams to score now. Wigan to John Money would love his side to score to bring them back into the game before half-time. And Saints, it would be a fantastic cushion for them if they were to get on the score sheet again.
Cunningham. Aggressive player from Hooker. He's burst from acting half-back, a telling weapon. Martin's kick. John Money looking down on a match situation that won't please him greatly.
Well, normally at this time of the game he'd probably be making his way back to the dressing rooms for the half-time talk, but the pace of the game has been played at and the intensity, I'm sure he'll stay there until the whistle. He can't afford really to take his eyes off it.
Andy Goodway just behind John Money, the Great Britain coach and Money's assistant here. Former colleague of yours, Joe. Henry Paul. Referee Stuart Cummings intervening. Play the ball. Not able to be completed to his satisfaction.
Yeah, the penalty there just for holding Henry down a little bit too long in the tackle. You mentioned Andy Goodway there. I was speaking to Phil Clark, the chief executive here at Wigan, about the quality of coaching staff they had, and he mentioned the point that you did. With so many quality players in the team, they need to have up-to-the-date information from as many coaches as possible just to keep them really ticking over and balanced.
Robinson going on the short side. Tackled first by Sculthorpe.
Interesting to see Lee Gilmore playing as a forward for Wigan, often regarded as a centre, really, being converted by John Money. An interesting Bradford Bulls who would like to sign him as a centre, but there he is playing in the pack for Wigan.
Henry Paul. Last tackle. Wigan organising their troops. McCormack much to the fore. So too is Farrell. Long pass to Mark Bell. Bell with the kick, and the follow-up is thwarted by the late intervention of Aitchison. He'll get a handshake for his troubles.
That was good work, defensive work by St Helens this time, not making the tackle. But just watch Anthony Sullivan there, just shields his teammate Paul Aitchison, and Paul is able to put the kick in. Watch it once more. Anthony Sullivan, who is turned by the kick by Bell, just makes sure that he stays in the way, and Aitchison is able to kick the ball dead.
Aitchison has been in the thick of the most significant action at that end of the field at least. Drop out by Tommy Martin. Fielded by Radlinski. Now Simon Horton, one of this clutch of full internationals. Horton, who scored a couple of tries in the last of the recent tests against Australia at Elland Road. Cowie. Turned in the tackle, and the tackle wasn't completed. This is Robinson. Still 6-0 to St Helens, and still desperately tight. Wigan looking for an equalising score with Farrell and Danny Moore. Smith. Cowie. Tony Smith once more. Now Dennis Betts. Leaves it to Henry Paul. Paul back to Connolly. Connolly on the diagonal run. Last tackle. McCormack to Farrell. Long pass to Danny Moore. And Danny Moore is in. A huge pass from Andy Farrell. Picking out this mountain of a man, Danny Moore, the big Queenslander signed at Christmas. Had only one man to beat on his run to the line, and such was his size and his momentum that Moore was always going to win that particular battle, and he's pulled Wigan back into this tie.
Worth noting in this replay, it's a forward, a loose forward of rugby league that passes this ball. A pass you'd normally attribute to a back. Fantastic long ball to pick out Danny Moore. And it was the speed and the accuracy of the pass that beat the St Helens defence. Not so much the evasion of Danny Moore, he ran back on the angle, but he just beat Smith literally by the pass. He was unable to keep his eye on the player and the ball. And as you watch the lengthy pass come in there, Moore hits the ball on an angle and beats the defence to the line. Great pass, great try.
John Money does say of Andy Farrell that really he's a half-back in a forward's body. And it is the half-back in the forward's body who's going to try and tack on the 2 points for the conversion. 44 points in the Challenge Cup so far this season. For 44, Reid 46.
Well, if he has got that pitch in the back garden, he's also got a pair of posts that stand above the garden fence, I'm sure, because he knew exactly where that ball was going then.
I trust the neighbours don't mind, Joe.
But if Andy Farrell came over and said, could he have his ball back, I'm sure, John, you for one would gladly give it to him.
This was the pass from Farrell. It took out, what, 3 St Helens players?
Three players were mesmerised by the ball as it crossed in front of them. And Danny Moore, just to complement it, hit the handle perfectly, collected the ball and beat the defence to the line.
Andy Haig. Last few seconds of this fiercely contested first period. Danny Moore, the try scorer. Cunningham. Now Sculthorpe. Cunningham once more. And invaluable yards. Chris Smith, whose try puts St Helens into that lead that they've only just lost. Julian O'Neill to Chris Joint. Kieran Cunningham is down on his haunches inside his own half for St Helens, receiving treatment. And half-time arrives.
What a half-time.
With nothing to choose between the sides.
Exactly right. It's been a first half of fantastic rugby for me. You may say, well, why not just play 40 minutes and start nil apiece in these games? But I'm sure we would have missed a treat.
A fair reflection, 6-6.
I think so. I think Wigan started the better of the two teams. They played some fantastic opening rugby, throwing the ball from side to side and trying to make the gaps in the St Helens defence. But on this occasion, it was St Helens that scored first, and Wigan have had to fight their way back in. Looking at the graphics there, it's minutes in possession almost equal. Again, time in possession bang on. Tackling's made. I mean, it's so even all the way through, though. More handling errors than John Money would have liked as coach of Wigan, but penalties conceded minimal.
So the thought is Wigan and St Helens 6 apiece, and 1 or 2 people will be checking their diaries just to make sure that they're free for any possible replay. Couldn't be tighter.
Yes, a fast and furious first half, an exciting second to look forward to. And watching with me in the studio, the winning coach from yesterday's Sheffield, John Keir. Who, John, do you, in your opinion, had the better first half?
I think it was very, very tight indeed, as reflected with the score. But I was impressed with St Helens over the first 25, 30 minutes. I thought they controlled the ball very well, kicked very sensibly, and they slowed Wigan down in the tackle very well. But as Wigan reduced their number of errors, as the half wore on, they became more and more dangerous. And the try at the end was the result of good field position, and it was a tremendous try.
You said before it was going to be a very physical game.
Yes, I think...
It certainly was when it started. A lot of tension out there.
Yes,
obviously.
there is. I think that's partly responsible for the errors. Joe's just mentioned that John Money won't be happy with 7 handling errors, I believe, and he certainly won't be. He'll be asking them to cut down on that. But they are playing a very expansive type of game, which makes for an entertaining game. But the collisions are very, very fierce and very, very intense, and it's a game for rugby league purists, this one.
Well, let's talk through some of the key points, because it really was St Helens who had the first opportunity from Carl Hammond.
Yes, that's right. It's interesting here, the kick, because Bobby Goulding takes the ball on a run round and then puts the kick in. And when the ball goes to the air, it becomes very much a 50-50 opportunity. Chris Radlinski's coming across, there's Chris Smith pressurising, and the ball just pops up loose. And there's a great credit there for Jason Robinson. That's a tremendous tackle, a great second effort, and Radlinski scrambling as well. So it was a very, very close thing there.
I mean, Jason Robinson, you said they're turning so strong, but this is the try, and a sensational break.
Yes, I mean, there's Anthony Sullivan there, who we mentioned before, and he's back there helping the forwards bring it out of their red zone. But he's such an elusive player. He gets outside more, and there's outside another player, and he's very, very intelligent here, because as the full-back's coming across, he picks up his inside runner, who's supported very well indeed, Chris Smith. So it's 2 wingers working in tandem, and once it's a foot race with Chris Smith, he's very, very quick indeed. I was quite impressed with Radlinski's speed in chasing him down, but Smithy there, he's going one place only, and that's under the white dot. It's a great, great try.
A long fall, wasn't it?
It certainly was.
And this is Jason Robinson, his chance, because he began to turn it around for Wigan.
He certainly did, yes. I mean, Jason Robinson's one who will always pop up anywhere on the field. I mean, he's a winger, but look where he's popping up. And he's great elusive skills here. And he does something off the cuff. It's a little kick. And really, it's tremendous work here from Andy Haig, the centre, who gets back, body on the line time, and just covers the ball there.
And here comes Wigan's try just before half-time.
Yes, you can't score at a better time. I mean, it looked as if Saints were going to go in 6-0 up. But Andy Farrell, he receives the ball, and it's the looking wide here. Conley's got the ball. There's a quick play of the ball, and I'm sure Farrell's read the numbers here. St Helens are tucked in quite tight, and because they're quite tight, they have to go up and out. Now, because Chris Smith's scooting out so much, Danny Moore reads it tremendously and takes the ball running outside to in, and that's what actually beat Chris Smith. And that was a tremendous pass, great skills there, but also great credit to Danny Moore.
So half-time, the coaches, what will they be saying?
Well, I think John Money, he'll be telling Wigan just perhaps to control the ball a bit better and play to the kick. And I think Sean McRae will just say a little bit more of what we've been doing, keep slowing the play the ball, keep kicking. But it's going to be quite difficult, because I just sense as the half wore on that Wigan were coming more and more into the game. And I think that's quite ominous for the Saints.
OK, thanks for the moment, John. I know you're going to enjoy this next item, because we're going to look back to yesterday's quarter-final Challenge Cup tie between Castleford Tigers and Sheffield Eagles. We can join highlights of it now. Commentators are Ray French and Jonathan Davis.
Sheffield again. Aston. He's got Broadbender charging to the line. Shaw. Crashing in, and he's over! Danny Orr. He's got Davis cutting through. Brad Davis, the hero against Bradford, and the hero at the moment. Aston. Paul Carr. Oh, Sabatabua. He takes that ball beautifully. He's going over the corner. He's got Crowder there. Matt Crowder goes in at the corner. Good passing. Davis again. Good switch ball. Back inside to Smith. Oh, good tackle again by Broadbent. Forward to Davis. He's got Barry John Madden there. And Barry John Madden is over. Tabatabua. Again on that blind side. He's got back. Crowder going for the corner. Crowder with one to beat. Oh, and he's in at the corner. On the fifth tackle now to Dave Watson. Derek a little rubber kick. Broadbent's there. Oh, this could be a try for Sabatabua, I think. A ricochet from the Castleford player. Castleford battling grimly to haul themselves back in here now. Oh, and an interception by Barry John Mather to the corner, and Mather will go in there, and that's the try that Castleford have needed. The fans are going wild here at Weldon Road, and there's no need for this punching at all. There we see Barry John Mather perhaps celebrating a little prematurely. Turner goes in. Does he catch a knee at the back of the head? He doesn't seem to be too bad at the moment. Then he rushes in. Mr. Connolly does as well. 1 or 2. Oh, and a punch there flying from Keith Senior, it looks to me. And that certainly dropped Barry John Mather there. And no need for that.
Should have got sent off for that. And that might cost him his place in the semi-final.
Using that blind side to Keith Senior, and Senior's going down the far side. Dave Watson. Wood. Back to Gareth Stevens. Stevens, he's got Senior with him, and Senior is racing in again under the post, and surely that is the try that will send Castleford out of the 1998 Challenge Cup. That's a good burst down the far side. Oh, good tackle. Tremendous effort there from Keith Senior. Davis again. He's going through. Oh, and has Brad Davis brought a little hope back into this game.
A magnificent win for Sheffield Eagles. But, John, one incident there really clouded the celebrations, that punch from Keith Senior. Yes,
I think as we saw in the Wigan and Saints game, I mean, passions are running very, very high. The stakes are very high, and I just think it was simply an overreaction. I mean, if we look at the incident, we see that, first of all, there was Darren Turner dropped on the try scorer, Barry John Mather. Then there was a bit of afters from Dean Sampson, and then it just blew up with a few verbals, and I just think Keith overreacted. So it's something that might well happen in the sort of passion and the intensity and the enthusiasm of a Challenge Cup quarter-final.
Of course, the penalty is that he might now miss the semi-final.
Yeah, well, that's up to the disciplinary committee if it goes that far. I believe the executive committee will look at it and decide if it does go to disciplinary, and if it does, we'll have to go and state our case. But I don't think it's serious enough for Keith to miss the semi-final. I think a rap on the knuckles will be enough from me, and perhaps a little fine.
It was a great performance, but talk about how you've focused as a team for the Challenge Cup.
Yes, we've worked very hard. We've had 5 months now of intense preparation, and we've worked hard on our physical condition to peak for the Challenge Cup. We've had a wrestling coach in, we've had a psychologist in, and we've had some hand-eye work with netball and basketball people to try and improve our skill level. So we've worked hard on improving the individual as well as working hard as a team, and we've set Wembley as a major goal, and what we need is a bit of luck with the draw, and you never know, it might be the first time ever that the Eagles run out there.
What about Sheffield? I mean, a big city for sport. I mean, how's it been received there? Rugby?
Well, there's a growing awareness so now, because obviously with Wednesday and United, Wembley's associated with success through the FA Cup, and if the Eagles do manage to get there, it will raise the awareness there, and it just adds to the great city, because it is a fine sporting city. You've got the swimming there this afternoon, there's basketball, ice hockey, and there's also 2 good soccer teams, so it's buzzing at the minute, and the Academy Sport will come there, so we're hoping to round it all off for May the 2nd.
All good news in Sheffield. Well done for yesterday. Back to today, though, and Wigan against St Helens. We're going back for an exciting second half, but it's changing times at Wigan. John Money, of course, is back. A new owner, Dave Whelan, and a Wigan man through and through. Phil Clark is the new chief executive. Let's hear from him now. He's talking to Richard Duckenfield.
Yes, Phil, it seems only a few minutes since you were the Wigan captain. Now, every inch the chief executive. This is a turn-up for the books, isn't it?
Yeah, very often life throws you challenges that you're not expecting, but for me it's a fantastic opportunity to get involved in the management of the club at such an early age.
But it came out of misfortune, because really you should still be playing. You got a very bad injury.
Yes, I was unfortunate to 2 years ago break my neck whilst playing over in Australia, but luckily for myself there was no serious damage, and I made a full recovery but for playing again. I see that as being very lucky rather than unlucky.
You make light of that. You say you broke your neck. Now that sounds very, very serious. What was the process that led you to stop playing?
The bone didn't heal in my neck, and obviously it was closer to the spinal cord than before I got injured, so under doctor's advice they said, you know, you just can't play again and avoid contact sports, which was very saddening at first, but when I saw other people who'd had similar injuries and the misfortune they have, I realised every day how lucky I am.
Now you've got a new pressure because you're chief executive, an executive role. John Money's back, Wigan are moving grounds in a couple of years' time. The pressure's on you.
Yeah, the pressure's on me, but it's very exciting. There was always pressure on me when I played here at Wigan. I always tried my best on the field. Now it's up for me to give 100% off it. As you said, John Money's back, and there are a few other people. We've also got some new people involved in the club, and just the whole feel over the last couple of weeks has been, you know, a new era and a new dawn for Wigan. The crowd today sold out in 2 days, which is, you know, unprecedented, even going back to the glory days a few years ago. So it's a very exciting time for Wigan Rugby League Club again.
Do you think the move from Central Park, with all its history, will be a popular one with the Wigan spectators?
Well, the ground was sold obviously before the new regime came in, and we will move now to a new stadium. That is the way to go, and I'm sure the supporters, when they realise the facilities and the entertainment they'll be offered, will enjoy it. And at the end of the day, they want the best team on the field, and that's our responsibility to do it and to entertain them that way.
But I suppose even as chief executive, you'll have to hope, you'll have to believe that Wigan can get back to being, if you like, the World Championship club. Yeah,
that was our goal, and the highlight of my career whilst playing here was when we were crowned World Club champions back in 1994, and that's our long-term goal again, to be the best team in the world. There are several smaller steps we must take to get there, but we're on the way, and hopefully today will be the start of that.
And briefly, what you've seen in the first half, okay?
Yeah, a great game, isn't it, so far? St Helens are a pretty dangerous side, and we'll have to be careful, but I'd look for Jason Robinson perhaps sneaking up with a try late in the game.
Thanks, Phil. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, down in the bowels of the stand, the two teams are ready to rejoin battle. It is extremely sad that Phil Clark, at the age of 26, isn't able to take part in occasions such as these that he graced for so long any longer. But at the same time, he has a real challenge as Wigan try to re-emerge as the major force in British Rugby League. It's a good barometer today of just how much progress they've made in the few short months that John Money has been back at the club. Here comes Sean McRae, leading his coaching staff of St Helens back out down the tunnel. And 6 points apiece, the match situation. Remember that last time these two sides met in the Challenge Cup here at Central Park 3 years ago, it finished in a 16-all draw, and the replay victory in 1995 of that fourth round tie that Wigan enjoyed at Knowsley Road was the last time that St Helens lost a Challenge Cup tie. For so many years it wasn't just Wigan, it was mighty Wigan. The adjective seemed to become part of the club's name in the days when my expert colleague here, Joe Lydon, was part of the Wigan side, and that's what they're aiming for again, Joe.
Yes, they want to get back to those days, and the first step, as Phil Clark, the chief executive, said, is the step to Wembley. You know, it is the big occasion in rugby league football. It comes so early in the season now, but the Silk Cut Challenge Cup is still the place to be, and to get between the Twin Towers and actually play in the final is the thing to do.
Final coming up at Wembley on May the 2nd. The semi-final draw tomorrow on BBC Radio 5 Live at 5 to 7. The semi-finals both live on BBC television in a fortnight's time. But we have unfinished business here at Central Park, where we at the moment are unable to separate these two great clubs. All to play for.
You asked me at the beginning who my money's on. What would you say now, John, for the second half?
Are you free for a replay?
I think you might be right on that one. It's certainly close, but there are enough players on here of quality and ability to cause upset and to score tries to win games.
This is Farrell. Cormac at acting halfback. Now Lee Gilmore juggled but kept hold of it. Wigan looking for a good positive opening to this second period. Henry Paul inside to Horton. Gained barely a metre before he was held. Farrell will kick. Testing out Aitchison again. It's a decent kick and it's an excellent take. Chris Smith.
Wigan, in the form of Farrell, have asked Paul Aitchison, the St Helens fullback, a few questions, and so far he's answered all of them.
Perellini, the enormous Western Samoan. Chris Joint. Kieran Cunningham to Bobby Goulding. Goulding's kick is a raking kick, but it's going to go beyond the goal line at the far end. Goulding taking on board some water.
Mistake here from Bobby, but I'm sure he won't be too concerned. He still manages to get good distance on the kick, and Wigan start from their own 20-yard line.
Jason Robinson really broken free of the shackles. For Cormac, Dennis Betts. Julie Martin, a picture of innocence as he looks towards the touch judge. How deceptive appearances can be. Horton. Mind you, it's a look that most rugby league players perfect at one time or another, Joe.
Don't know what you mean.
Here's Lee Gilmore. Tony Smith. Scurrying figure at scrum half. Robinson. Andy Farrell, who was thrown to the ground by Chris Smith after he dispatched the kick downfield. But it was still unerringly accurate.
So far in the second half, this is the only way really to make ground in the game is to put the kicks in. The defences are so good. They've had the half-time tea talks from the two coaches, from John Money and from Sean McRae. They've been looking to make more gaps later on as people get tired, but so far it's only kicks that have gained territory.
Sculthorpe emerging from the back of the scrum. Goulding to Joint. Joint looked to his left where Andy Haig was waiting to receive a pass that never came. Cunningham to Perellini. His most distinctive and distinguished of prop forwards. Cunningham picking up the cudgels again until he's tackled by his opposite number McCormack, but Perellini takes an awful lot of stopping. Goulding through the hands of Martin to Newler.
That's a fantastic battle that's going on within a battle. That's Gary Connolly against Paul Newlove, two great centres, world-class centres, and they're the players that really can dictate a game normally, but have been marked by each other very, very well today.
Do you regard Gary Connolly as a good judge of the game, Joe?
I think so. I think he's got an excellent talent, not only in his ability with the ball, but he's so good at reading a game. Not only that, he has immense physical strength for a player that's not the biggest in height, but certainly a strong player.
I just wondered whether you respected his opinions, because one of them is that you were one of the best players he ever played with or against.
Sound judge. I always said he was a sound judge.
Simon Horton. Gary Connolly, overtures being made by the other code at the moment, Robinson.
I'm surprised Gary didn't mention the fact that when he first watched myself play, he was actually ball boy at Wembley, and that's a frightening scenario when you're playing alongside somebody that was ball boy in the same match.
His other favourite player was Kevin Ward, so he obviously went for the very mobile, lithe players.
Let's end this now, should we?
Kevin Ward, by the way, for the uninitiated, was a brick wall of a prop forward. Bell. The kick from Tony Smith. Sullivan going back for St Helens. And tackled by Smith, who made the kick in the first place. Aitchison. Scampering 2 or 3 extra metres. Goulding to Sullivan. A wall of Wigan tacklers just waiting for him. And a wall of noise around Central Park for the majority of this game. Cunningham. And then Chris Smith. And now Joint. Sculthorpe. Chris Joint is hurt after that tackle. O'Neill. There will be concern on the Saints bench at seeing their skipper down. Goulding.
Here's the replay of Chris Joint, who gets hit just after he releases the ball, and I think that'll be a winding is determined with the wind leaving his body at speed too. Andy Farrell hit him just as he relaxed, having let the ball go in the pass. One lesson there is do not relax, especially when Andy Farrell is close by.
The referee, Stuart Cummings, making the point that St Helens have to get on with matters, even though Joint is lying injured 30 or 40 metres away. So they go into this scrum.
And the very bad news for St Helens is that they're indicating that Chris Joint is going to have to leave the field.
As Jason Robinson picks the ball up and goes clear, over halfway, over the 20-metre line. It's a one-man race, but only he can win. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting for Jason Robinson to make an impact. And what an impact when finally he steps clear, goes through the gears into overdrive, went over the line unopposed for a try that puts Wigan in front for the first time.
There are so many players, as we've already mentioned, that can make a break and score. This time it's Jason Robinson, the perfect time pass. Paul Aitchison does extremely well to get close to him, but actually his push rather than tackle just propels Jason Robinson even further forward, pushes him towards the line, and he doesn't need any help, this lad. He has enough speed to get there on his own, beats the covering tackle of Sullivan. Wigan in the lead.
A double blow really for St Helens, because they were effectively down to 12 men with Chris Joint still receiving treatment, and they've conceded a try to Jason Robinson whilst Joint was still lying groggily on the turf. And once he went clear, look at the determination etched across his face, every sinew straining for every last bit of pace. And even Anthony Sullivan, who would give him a good race over 100 metres, couldn't get close.
No, Sullivan must be complimented though for making the angle a little more difficult for Andrew Farrell, the kicker. Instead of just giving up and letting Jason Robinson go under the post for an easy kick and an easy 2 points, Farrell has a difficult conversion now to try and turn the 4 points of Jason Robinson into 6.
So it is Farrell, and it is successful. The only thing Phil Clark got wrong in his half-time interview was that he said Robinson would score a late try.
Well, he might do that as well, you never know. You never know. That's the kind of pass, though, that sent Jason Robinson away that every winger dreams of. The perfect ball there from Moore, around the defending player, around the tackle, and puts Robinson in space. And once this player is in space, then that's usually the result.
Some people extremely pleased by that. But the 5,000 or so St Helens supporters are a mite more subdued than they have been at any other stage in this afternoon's unfolding drama, which still has more than half an hour to run. Sculthorpe for St Helens.
Wigan have condensed their defensive line in St Helens' half of the field. As soon as St Helens retrieve a ball in their own half, they condense the line up, start to spread as they move further back towards their own try line, but they really are making it tough for St Helens to penetrate and break.
And Chris Joynt, the St Helens captain, back on the bench. The team doctors had a look at him. He's very badly winded. He doesn't know whether he might have damaged rib cartilage at this stage. He's going to leave it 5 minutes, and then the doctor's going to have another look at Chris Joynt. So a 5-minute period before we decide whether Joynt can play any part in this game again.
Ian Pickervance has come on in place of the St Helens captain, who does look like he's not quite sure whether it's Sunday or Monday.
There aren't many worse feelings than that, than having the wind knocked out of you, especially when players say you'll be all right, and you know you will, but it's usually a fortnight later.
Here's Henry Paul for Wigan. And now, at a slight angle, it was Danny Moore, their first try scorer, who ran onto the ball. Jason Robinson. Sean McRae with food for thought. Simon Horton. McRae, remember, has never lost a Challenge Cup tie. And this is the 13th one in which he's been involved. Henry Paul, Dennis Betts. Betts caught by the shoulder of his shirt.
I don't think he'd thank Henry Paul for that pass. You have a player of Dennis's ability, although he's been out of the game for so long. He likes nice crisp pass and gaps to run into, and not a wall of defence, as Henry Paul kindly gave him there.
This is Farrell. With the dummy and then the kick. Retreating as Sullivan and Aitchison. It's Sullivan with the ball. Tackle made by Lee Gilmore. Aitchison to Newlow. Simon Horton clinging on this time together with Betts. Cunningham, Perellini. Referee issuing instructions to Dennis Betts as to exactly what's required. Play the ball. And now Pickervance, the recently arrived substitute, who didn't play the ball correctly.
He didn't, but the referee has said that it's a penalty for interference as to play the ball. I'm not sure that was the case either. I think that should have been a scrum down.
Tap taken by Cunningham to Goulding, to Martin, now Perellini. Managed to offload back to Tommy Martin. St Helens looking for a swift riposte to that second Wigan try. And here's Pickervance trying to straighten. Newlow. One-man crusade. Not on this occasion successful. Goulding. St Helens work it along the line. Hammond. And picked up by Tony Smith for Wigan, who then lost the ball. Andy Haig regathered it for St Helens, and the referee saying there was no advantage accruing from the knock-on. And it'll be a scrum down.
Carl Hammond tried to delay the pass there for Paulo Perellini, who didn't read the situation, thought he was a decoy runner.
Stuart Cummings controlling this game. He's had a difficult week because he is a school teacher in Upholland, which is slap bang in the middle of Wigan and St Helens. Half his class supports Saints and the other half support Wigan. Here's Bobby Goulding, who's represented both clubs. Newlow to Anthony Sullivan, in at the corner. Anthony Sullivan for St Helens.
Made the first one, scored the second one for St Helens. The mistake by Wigan which turned the ball over. As soon as that happens, St Helens respond.
The essence of Saints Wigan contest down the years. As soon as one side gets in front, the other comes right back. And Anthony Sullivan, this prolific try scorer, has stamped his mark on this particular Saints Wigan contest.
Gary Connolly lines up the defensive line. Paul Newlow, the centre for St Helens, just holds the ball long enough. Sullivan sneaks in at the corner. Great try for St Helens. There's a mistake by Wigan, to put the ball down, and then St Helens pick it up. And as soon as they do, Bobby Goulding moving from right to left, finds Newlow with the pass. Newlow just draws the defence, holds the pass long enough to put Sullivan, give him space and let him get in the corner.
Anthony Sullivan readjusting his gum shield. Bobby Goulding adjusting his mind to the task in hand.
A difficult kick from Bobby, although it's the right side for a right-footed kicker. He's into the wind, it's very close to the touchline, but if he wants to level the scores, he has to plant this one between the sticks. He has the approach, he has the ability to do this. He's also got great preparation and skill.
Adjacent.
Not the strength on this occasion. Strange, maybe that wind had the influence on the kick and stopped it travelling the correct distance to get the 2 points for the conversion. I don't think he actually hit it as good as he would have liked. Here's the pass that set up the try. Bobby Goulding running across field, finds Newlove. Newlove just delays the pass to Sullivan. Sullivan manages to squeeze in the corner.
Sullivan, as good a finisher as you'll find. This was Goulding's attempt at the conversion.
Another couple of inches or a lick of pain, that could have been completely different.
The message from the St Helens coach Sean McRae delivered to the pitch was no panic now after that try was scored. No panic, but make the most of the 6 tackles, make the most of the possession that St Helens get.
Sean McRae and John Money, the 2 coaches involved today, know each other of old from their days down under. They're also fairly regular tennis partners.
St Helens in the second half, more possession than Wigan, which is surprising, really.
Danny Moore's lost the ball, though.
But that'll make all the difference. Once you start losing the ball, you don't complete your sets of 6 tackles and you turn the ball over, it makes the job so much easier for your opponents. And that percentage of possession creeps up.
Danny Moore appearing for the first time at Central Park in Wigan colours. In a top-grade match anyway. This is Pickerbats. Chris Smith scored their opening try. A memorable try as well. Goulding, the focal point really, bringing Sculthorpe in. And now Martin. Flicked the hand of Julian O'Neill on the way through. This is Perolini. Back to O'Neill.
The referee has ruled that touched a Wigan hand in the tackle, knocked it down, but behind the St Helens line, and therefore the tackle count restarts.
Which is a bonus for St Helens. And they take full advantage. This is Pickerbats, driving it as hard as he possibly can. Cunningham, Goulding. Saints need to move the ball quickly. This is Carl Hammond. And then Chris Smith. Release, says referee Cummings. Goulding. Long pass to Sullivan, who took it very much on the back foot. Which makes his task somewhat difficult, and now he's lost the ball to Connolly.
Well, he complicated play at the time, it wasn't needed then. Sullivan looking for his support players and to put his back to the Wigan defensive line, trying to find a run to come off him. He'd already stepped off his left foot, stalled. Aitchison just didn't read it.
Here's Betts. Anthony Sullivan scored a try, but then found all routes blocked when he received the ball second time around. Gary Connolly taking advantage for Wigan. Farrell. Now Gilmore. Bursting past Tommy Martin. Radlinski. Henry Paul. Seemed glad to get rid of the ball. In fact, it's cost Wigan 5 or 6 metres. McCormack. Farrell with his umpteenth kick of the afternoon into the same sort of area that we've seen the previous ones go. Sullivan. St Helens preparing a substitution. Carl Hammond's going to go off, and Sean Long will be his replacement. Long, another of the former Wigan contingent at St Helens these days.
That's true, no stranger to Central Park, Sean Long. Loads of skill and ability. Only a slight player, but great ability, and also reads the game very, very well. They'll be looking to him now to cause a few problems in the Wigan defence and create a few gaps.
When these sides met in the Challenge Cup last season at the 4th round stage, Long was actually in the Wigan team that day. Goulding. Pick of Vance, lost it, and there's a chance. for Mark Bell, but he couldn't gather the ball successfully, and Sullivan has flopped gratefully onto it. And that was half a chance.
It was more than half a chance. It would have given them great position, even if they had to come up with the points. You know, mistakes that you don't normally expect at this standard of play, that they're being forced into errors today. I think that would be true to say.
Long. Chris Joint, we hear down on the benches, getting to warm up again and may be thrown back in shortly. Cunningham, by his opposite number McCormack, midway through this second half. And still predicting a winner is a futile business in a contest as close as this. Long. That's the glory of sporting rivalry such as that between Wigan and St Helens. Predictions are worthless. Here's Robinson. But there was a knock-on.
There were several knock-ons in that sequence of play. Very, very scrappy. Wasn't sure from one time to another who had the ball. The referee, you might hear the boos in the background on the sound, is because he's awarded the ball at the scrum to St Helens. Wigan fans and players, I think it's true to say, not happy.
Stuart Cummings giving the decision, handling errors. Not much to choose between the sides in that particular category. Mestrov on for Gilmore, though, for Wigan. Sean Long. Chris Smith, ball went backwards, play on. Smith trying to roll Danny Moore out of the way. O'Neill. Cowie in at the tackle. Pickavance.
Intelligent play from St Helens. They've realised that they've made a few mistakes, handling errors. Now they're using the more direct route just to settle it down. The inside runner, kick from Bobby Goulding.
And Sullivan's off in pursuit. Bell's back for Wigan, and it's grateful just to shovel it anywhere. Mark Bell was the Wigan player who scurried back as Goulding's well-disguised kick out towards the corner.
Well, for those of you who didn't know, Bell, there's a close-up for you.
It's a decent tackle by the cameraman, in all honesty.
It was, and we'll make sure he has one on the stats there.
Aitchison misjudged it in flight. Had to make a tumbling catch, Perellini. Pickavance. "20 metres out. St Helens trailing by just 2 points. Long. Wrapped up by Betts. 250 tackles made by the two sides.
That echoes to the territorial advantage and possession that St Helens have had in the second half, making Wigan make 133.
To Sullivan. Bell provides the cover for Wigan and Connolly makes the tackle. Martin to Goulding. Now Goldspink, who's rejoined us. Is it worth a drop goal? Goulding's last tackle. Saints looking for something more positive than that and just slipping the ball out anywhere. A little bit of handover.
Goulding acknowledged to his teammates there that he probably took the wrong option. He was waiting for runners to come off him, but Wigan had done a fantastic job in defence, just closing his options down, making sure every man was covered, and as he tried to get the ball with the reverse pass back to his teammates, it went actually forward.
Would it have been worth the goal for the drop or not?
I don't think so, although we've already identified at one point maybe the difference. I think Bobby really wanted to get a try on that occasion. They've had a lot of chances down here in Wigan's half in the last 10 minutes, and they really wanted to register some points on the scoreboard. Looking at the graphics there, 56%, and that's time in the opponent's half. St Helens really have taken the game to Wigan in the early part of this second half, and will be frustrated really that they haven't scored more points.
Sixth tackle. Farrell with the use of the boot.
You're offside.
A not inconsiderable weapon. This time it's well held by Aitchison. Cunningham. Ducked underneath the tackle of Betts. Tommy Martin tried to straighten and found Connolly right in front of him. Paul Newlove, hoping that by running across the face of the Wigan tacklers he might gain more ground, but making too much difference. Right on halfway, Goulding. Sculthorpe, this most mobile of second row forwards. He played most of last season as a loose forward with Warrington before his transfer. Pickervance. Of course, Saints do have a couple of players who are unable to take part today. Villa Matautia is injured. Goulding kicking over the top, well taken by Smith. And their new Australian player, Damien Smith, is ineligible for the Challenge Cup. A knock-on given by Stuart Cummings. Although Henry Paul is leading the Wigan protests, he disagrees.
Well, Henry thought that this ball was pulled out from the Wigan player. It was actually an out from Pickervance, though. He saw in the replay, just pushed it out.
So Wigan head and ball. Farrell, Radlinski, held by Long and Perellini. It's 111 years since the first encounter between these two sides. That was in rugby union days. And whilst there have been some one-sided league contests down the years between these two, in the Challenge Cup, invariably, they've been just about as close as this. Tony Mestrov tackled on halfway. McCormack from acting halfback to Tony Smith. Moving the ball right is Farrell. Well taken out by Martin.
Superb tackle by Tony Martin. They read the play well just before Andy Farrell reached the ball, flattered him.
Tony Smith with the kick this time. And if Aitchison had a pound for every time he's fielded the ball in that sort of position, he'd be even richer than he is already. Sullivan. Some thudding tackles being made out there. Sullivan caught by Simon Horton. Cunningham. Quite a few handling errors just lately, Joe.
Exactly right. This time it's Kieran Cunningham. The ball is pushed back from within the tackle. He can't gather it. And this is the good side of having a great kicking game, as Wigan have done. You mentioned that several times they've managed to turn St Helens round, and Paul Aitchison had to feel the ball deep inside his own half. And what they're hoping for, Wigan, is that they will cope mistakes such as the one we've just seen, and therefore Wigan can exploit it from the next phase of possession.
Henry Paul from the scrum to Tony Smith. Now can Smith find the acceleration? He could, but so did two St Helens tacklers. Farrell, Dennis Betts to within 8 metres. McCormack to Andy Farrell, to Henry Paul. This is where the discipline of St Helens is going to be fully tested. McCormack, Neil Cowie, picked up by Horton. Horton scrambling through, stretching, and just about getting over the line for a try. The referee consulted his colleagues on either side, who had their eagle eyes looking at the touchline, and Simon Horton must have extendable arms, because he stretched and stretched and stretched a little more, and just managed to ground the ball over the whitewash. Cowie with the initial surge, picked up by Horton, who maybe should have been held by Sean Long. He escaped, and look at the stretch and the willpower and the score.
That was a mismatch. Total mismatch. Sean Long, good defensive player, but when you have somebody determined and as strong with the ability that Simon Horton has got, look at the stretch on the jersey. He forced his way over that line. There was no way they were going to stop him there.
Simon Horton, in his 100th game for Wigan, scores his 43rd try for the club. And is it the try that will break St Helens with 10 minutes to go?
10 minutes is an awful long time in this game.
Much depends as well, I suspect, on whether Farrell can add the 2 extra points, which would make the gap 8. Andy Farrell, the top point scorer in the country last season. A man who can shut out a roaring crowd and all other intrusions, and now needs to do just that. He's missed it, so the gap remains at 6 points. And Wigan are not home and dry by any means yet.
Exactly right. 16 points to 10, home field advantage. You'd say 6 points in home field advantage, but this is Simon Horton here, stretching, forcing, using every ounce of power, strength and size to get on the line. The ball hits the whitewash, but that is a try.
And there seemed to be at least 3 St Helens players who had hold of the lapels of his shirt, but still couldn't stop him. So St Helens know that a converted try would put them level. And they have 10 minutes in which to find one and hope that they can keep Wigan out at the other end. This engrossing contest, Kieran Cunningham off for the time being. Paul Anderson has come on. Cunningham taking a breather, having virtually tackled himself to a standstill. Long. Now Sculthorpe. Anderson. To get the ball away from the tackle to Sculthorpe, who gets 2 or 3 extra metres. It's the last tackle. Terry O'Connor's on for Wigan. Neil Cowie is taking a breather. Anderson with the kick, ran into Dennis Betts, couldn't field the ball. Tony Smith picks it up for Wigan instead. Halted by Chris Smith, his former Castleford colleague. Jason Robinson.
Looking grim for St Helens. Kieran Cunningham, the hooker, is back on the bench. He actually started the game with something of a groin strain. This has been aggravated, not surprisingly really, as the game went on, and Kieran Cunningham has had to retire. It's a groin strain he's got.
Quite a few things have been aggravated this afternoon. It's been that sort of a contest. McCormack to Henry Paul. Very shortly, certain good judges in the press box will have to nominate their man of the match. O'Connor to Horton. McCormack waiting to distribute. Back it goes to Andy Farrell, who tries to launch the drop goal. It's high in the air. Aitchison's under the post, and it dipped beneath the bar. But that's what we're going to see, I think, from Wigan. Another point could make the world of difference.
It would mean that St Helens would have to score twice, at least try and conversion and another point just to get back into it. Andy Farrell here hits it, hopes, I'm sure he was holding his breath. It looks to be going over as we look at on the replay. It hangs in the air.
Goulding, Martin, and Goldsby.
I'd give more than a penny now for John Keir's thoughts, sitting in the studio, already through to the semi-final. I'm sure one of those thoughts would be that he wouldn't want to meet either of the teams that go through from this time.
Martin regathers and then knocks it on. And in fact, the ball is regathered by Wigan. So a chance goes begging. Martin just couldn't gather the ball, and Simon Horton dropped gratefully upon it. Terry O'Connor, who was only cleared to play in this game on Friday. He was sent off for the first time in his career in an Alliance game a week or so ago. Was given a 2-match ban and then appealed against it and was successful.
Neil Cowie's back on the Wigan bench. Neil, this game is every bit as tough as it was going to be, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a fantastic competition so far. It's neck and neck. There's only 6 points in it. A couple of minutes ago, we're just hoping that we can hold on.
Steady it down now.
Yeah, that's right, but we don't look like we're trying to do that at the moment, do we?
Thanks, Neil.
Dennis Betts over the 20-metre line. Little shilly-shally, change of direction, a few extra metres gained. Will it be the drop goal attempt again? It's Farrell, who's more or less mugged by Sculthorpe. But then Tony Smith digs through. Smith offloads to Dennis Betts! And Dennis Betts, on his return to Wigan, scores the try that may well take them through to the semi-finals of the Challenge Cup. He must have written the script himself.
John Mooney, risk what risk? I'll play this player, I'll bring him off the bench and he'll have a great influence. Those were his words, and that's exactly what Dennis Betts has done. It would be true to say that Wigan were trying to get the drop goal in. Andy Farrell attempt. Smith thought about it, release the ball, but Smith sets off now for the try line, breaks the tackle of Long again, gets through the gap. Edgerson on his shoulder, Dennis Betts all the way from Auckland scores a try that I'm sure will take Wigan through to the semi-final.
He has an acute sense of occasion and timing, Mr. Betts, after 3 years away from his beloved Wigan. And remember, this is against the side that he had the option of joining as well, St Helens. He turned them down, accepted a return to Wigan, and after claiming 7 Challenge Cup winners' medals, this try may well take him to within 2 victories of an 8th. Tony Smith, with all the build-up play, took the tackle from Aitchison, bounced off him, and Betts was on his shoulder to score the try that should be the clincher. I wonder what's going through his mind at this moment. Memories of Wembley appearances of previous seasons, and for St Helens, the holders, the thought that their run in the Challenge Cup may well be about to be brought to a halt.
I would suggest there that Bobby would do well to forget about analysing what happened then. He has to get his team marshalled and look forward to what they have to do to get back into this game and try and snatch something from it.
Well, how many times have we and they acclaimed Dennis Betts in his long career at Wigan? It was perhaps a feeling and a sight that they thought they would never ever see again when he departed for Auckland Warriors 3 years ago. But the ever-willing second row forward was available when required, and now Wigan are surely within just one step of another Wembley final. 4 minutes remaining. It will take something extraordinary from St Helens to get back into this. Paul Anderson. The 2 coaches have never ever lost Challenge Cup ties, either of them. John Money's 24th Challenge Cup tie, Sean McRae's 13th. But the man on the left is going out, the man on the right is going through yet again.
Not yet.
You haven't asked me where my money is now, Joe.
I'll go on then, tell me.
Yes. Here's Chris Smith. Connolly for Wigan, Mark Bell, McCormack. Now Danny Moore. Terry O'Connor. There was, of course, a time 2 or 3 years ago when Wigan supporters had almost a divine right to be at Wembley, it seemed, and they would book their holidays and their weekends in London around it. They got a rude shock when Salford put them out of the Challenge Cup 2 years ago and St Helens dispatched them last year, but those that have booked in advance now have only a semi-final hurdle if they can hang on to this lead to go through before they can return to beneath the Twin Towers, where they won 8 times in a row. And here's Mark Bell trying to put even further daylight between themselves and their great rivals. McCormack with 2 minutes to go. Farrell, Horton trying to keep the ball alive. Radlinski picked it up, but it had gone forward. But time is very much against St Helens, and the clock is a particular friend at this juncture of Wigan. Ball clearly went forward. St Helens will valiantly fight to the end. Gary Connolly, 29 tackles made.
And in the centre position, among the backs, that's an incredible amount of tackling. He's been called on to do it. He's marked Paul Newlove, one of the best centres in the game, but he's done it very, very well.
Goulding. Long. Tommy Martin. Tommy Martin seeing half a chance to break. Back to Sean Long, and then Sculthorpe's built it. Difficult ball to take. But in this sort of match situation, those are the balls that need to stick. They have to stick, and it didn't stick.
On the last 4 occasions that St Helens have tried to penetrate the Wigan defence and score, 2 were bad kicks, poor kicks, 1 was a turnover and then a drop ball, and that's the crucial area where you have to keep hold of possession. You have to make sure you retain the ball to put any pressure on the opposition.
And around the packed terraces and stands of Central Park, which for not much longer will be Wigan's home, shortly this is going to be a supermarket. One or two celebrations are being prepared. To Mark Wigan's return to the last 4 of the Challenge Cup. We're inside the last minute. And when the hooter goes, in a few seconds from now, you will hear one enormous Lancashire roar, emanating from supporters who have seen it all before, but have had a couple of relatively fallow years, and will celebrate all the more because of that. McCormack. The new-look Wigan are a force. That's one question that John Money has answered today. Last tackle. Paul to Smith. Now Farrell. And now Dennis Betts coming into the line, and just hit a little bit late by Picker-Vance, who's obviously exasperated. It is the handover. But we're now just seconds away from the conclusion of this mighty clash. Here's Newlove up towards the 20-metre line. And there goes the final hooter. And there will be a new name on the Silk Cut Challenge Cup this season. The holders are out. And Wigan, who have won the Challenge Cup on many more occasions than any other team in British Rugby League, are but one step away from yet another Wembley visit. Bobby Goulding, the former Wigan player, tried his heart out for St Helens. He was their fulcrum, but the Wigan hordes salute Dennis Betts, who scored what proved to be the match-winning try. Just a hint of a smile on the faces of Andy Goodway and John Money, more than a hint now. And so too Dennis Betts. Paul Aitchison, another former Wigan man. Mood of contemplation really for St Helens, who experience a losing feeling in the Challenge Cup for the first time in 3 years. It's also the first time in 3 years that we've seen Dennis Betts in a Wigan shirt, and significantly he played a match-winning part after arriving as a substitute. Andy Farrell, the Wigan captain, led mightily throughout, and Dennis Betts salutes the fans and John Money. The feeling is mutual between them. A fair outcome, Joe?
I think so. In the end, Wigan started off well. St Helens came right back into it and made it a fantastic tie. Wigan at the end had the better possession really late on, although St Helens had dominated territorially. They came back into it, Wigan, and played with confidence and really wanted it more than St Helens in the end. I'm sure that we're fair to say. One thing I am positive of is that we've watched an absolute cracker today. It's been a fantastic Challenge Cup round. The winners knew they were going through to the semi-final. The losers are out with nothing to look forward to, certainly in this competition, but a lot in the season.
Well, it's been a while since Wigan experienced a claim like this from the terraces of Central Park. St Helens leave the field vanquished. Wigan do a lap of honour. And there's the man that they are applauding more than anyone else, Dennis Betts, and Simon Horton, who scored another crucial try. St Helens dejected and beaten, having given their all. And Dennis Betts, having won 31 caps for Great Britain, 7 Challenge Cup winners' medals, has a certain talismanic quality as well, that when he's in the Wigan team, there is a certain feel-good factor and a certain feeling of security. Central Park, a fortress in years gone by. It's 12 years since last Wigan were beaten on their own soil in a Challenge Cup tie. And this is the Wigan side that carries so many hopes for the 1998 league season, and before that, more importantly at the moment, the charge towards Wembley.
Well, commiserations, Bob. I mean, Chris Joynt having to leave the field at that point, it made a difference on the game, maybe?
Yeah, it did, yeah. You know, the lads, really worked hard for 60 minutes. You know, it just wasn't enough. Wigan were too strong in the end.
Yeah, they're a good side, aren't they? I mean, they're a changed side, but they're looking sharp.
Very much so. Like I said before the game, you know, Danny Moore, Bell on the wing and McCormack, you know, 3 great players from Australia, and they did really well.
Yeah. Did you sense it was slipping away in the second half?
When he hit the post, I thought, you know, it was going back to a couple of years ago when it's a drop goal and he hit the post, and you know, from that on, then on in, yeah, it just went from worse to worse.
But maybe the right result at the end.
I'd never say that, no, because you know I'd love to win all the time, but you know, great result for Wigan. Hopefully, I said before this game, whoever wins this game will go on to win the cup, and I think Wigan are firm favourites to do it now.
Thanks very much, Bob. Hard luck. Thank you. The man of the match, Jason Robinson. Congratulations, Jason.
Thank you very much.
You were tipped at half-time, you know, by Phil Clark to score a try in this match.
Oh well, you know, my form has been good of late, and yeah, it was just great to get over the try line.
It came right in the second half because it was a tough first half, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a tough game. You know, everybody expected a tough game, and I think the lads really pulled together today, and we've come up with a good win.
So there was a sense of release really with your try, I would have thought.
Yeah, there was, but then you know, about 5 minutes later they scored, so you know, it was back to the hard stuff, and as I say, we all pulled together today, and we needed this win.
A typical Robinson try.
Well, what is a typical Robinson try? I don't know. As I say, it was just good to score, and you know, it came at a good time. But all credit to our forwards and all the rest of the lads. We dug down deep today, and we've come up with a good win.
Thanks, Jason. Congratulations.
Thank
you. And Dennis Betts, now then, this is a story. You don't want another cup winners medal, do you, Dennis?
I can't find me other one, so I might as well get another one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 12,000 miles, 3 years, great reception when you came on.
Yeah, it was a dream come true, really. It was coming back into the semi-final. A couple of weeks ago, I wasn't down to play until the start of the Super League season. We had the draw, I had a word with the coach, and he said no, and I spent 2 days trying to convince him that I was ready to play, because games don't come any bigger than this, and I just want to be part of it. Just want to be part of the side. I stood on the outside watching him for the last 4 weeks. It's about time I made an entrance.
It was never a risk, was it, really?
Well, I didn't believe so, no, but the coach would call it a calculated risk.
You'll call yours the best try of the game?
I don't care. Any try is a good try in my book, and it's just good to get a win, and we played tremendous in the second half. We controlled the game and just got on top of them.
Thanks, Dennis. Well done. Andy Farrell, the Wigan captain, and I mean, that was a towering game, really, wasn't it?
Very intense match, yeah. I mean, I said at the beginning of the match that it was going to go to the side who controlled the game, and you know, we felt we played terrible in the first half, and you know, we only controlled the ball very, very poorly. And the second half, we stick hold of it a bit more, you know, put more pressure on St Helens, and you know, the big forward started to tire a little bit in the end.
Thanks, Andy, and the Wigan coach, John Money. John, your record's still intact, but maybe you thought it would be.
Oh, well, they're always going to be tough matches, and that one wasn't any different. It was a little bit Aussie style in the first half, I thought, but you know, we got a hold of the game in the second half, and our preparation for the game was good, and the players were great today.
I suppose the unbiased spectator, and there'll be plenty of those, would say it was probably the right result.
Yeah, I think the best team won, but you know, for a long time there, both sides were pretty equal, and you know, it was a game, there wasn't much in it, and 6-all at half time, you know, was a fair indication. So it was a really good game of rugby league, nice and tough in the middle, and then a little bit of ball movement in the second half. So it was good to see.
Calm down for the semi-finals now.
Oh no, I always thought before today that we don't want to slip into the Castleford trap where you know, we get a lot of pats on the back and then we go out and we get ambushed in the next game. So there'll be no chance of that here.
Thanks very much, John. Congratulations.
Okay.
John Money through to the semi-finals, and with me another coach through to the semi-finals, Sheffield's John Keir. How did you sum up that game? Because Wigan certainly took their chances in that second half.
They did. I thought it was a tremendous arm wrestle of a game for 60 minutes, and I thought St Helens contributed greatly. And for the first 20 minutes after half-time, they were getting good field position, and they looked to be getting on top. But then Wigan just ran away with it at the end, and it all hinged on sort of Simon Horton's try, really, and he really showed sort of blood, guts, determination and desire, and sometimes cup ties can be won on that, because we talk about skill levels and tactical planning, but there's times when it just gets down to that in rugby league. A
little lack of concentration too towards the end, weariness maybe?
Yes, obviously both sides would have tired a little, because it was such an intense game, but I mean, when they scored from the drop goal attempt, it was simply the fact that St Helens flew out the line to try and close the drop goal attempt down. It caused gaps to appear, and then the try really sealed it. So I just think it was an absolutely tremendous advert for rugby league football, and you know, I think the BBC will be quite pleased with the two offerings that they've had this weekend.
Certainly have. I mean, looking at that, would Wigan be a team obviously you'd like to avoid in the semi-final? I
think you've just got to, if you're going to win the cup, you're going to have to play the top teams, and if we get drawn against them, we get drawn against them. But there's other alternatives as well. So
what nap for you between now and the semi-final?
Well, what we'll do is we'll have a look at our own game, and we'll try to sort of analyse any weaknesses that came up, and we'll try to improve on them. And then as soon as we know who we're playing, we'll try to identify a few weaknesses there and attack them, and we'll hopefully sort of come up with the right result again. So.
And you will know tomorrow?
tomorrow, I believe, at 5 to 7, yes. So it's a big day tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, good luck. Thanks very much, John, for joining us today. Wish you best of luck in that semi-final. You might be interested, though, just to see the latest in the Silk Cut quarter-final. Other matches being played. It's London Broncos 6, Hull Kingston Rovers 10, and Salford Reds 12, Hull Sharks 6. Those matches kicked off at 3 o'clock. We'll bring you an update on that later on. But now we turn our...
It's the countdown to Super League, and 4 big guns are just 80 minutes away from Wembley. We're less than 3 weeks away from the start of the season proper, but what a weekend in the Challenge Cup as the pot began to boil. Dennis was a real St Helens menace. He's never lost a Challenge Cup tie in his life. What a comeback. There's a certain steel about Sheffield. In the semi-final for the first time, it was one in the eye for the Tigers. The biggest boost in London's history too, as Robbie robs the Robins. They're on course for the shortest ever trip to Wembley. Now, Andy Gregory knows all about Wembley. As a player, he never lost there. And last year's semi-finalists, Salford, are red hot to go one better this time. And they're underway down under. We have exclusive highlights of the opening shots between Brisbane and Manly. Yes, the pulse is starting to race. We're just over a fortnight away from the start of Super League 3, and over the weekend we were given more of a taste of what's to come. 4 magnificent cup quarter-finals. We'll look back on them all. Steve-O here has a wake-up call for Wigan Stars, despite their march to the semi-final. And that's where we'll start, at Central Park, for the Battle of the Giants, Wigan against the Saints. An eagerly awaited clash this, and this is the way the two sides lined up. Wigan had Radlinski at full-back, new boy Bell, Connolly, new boy Moore and Robinson, Paul and Smith. And the forward pack, it was Mestrov, signed from London, McCormack from Australia, Holgate, Cassidy and Horton, Farrell, the loose forward and captain, as usual. And on the bench, Gilmore, Betts, Cowie and O'Connor. Coach, John Money back at the helm. Now, the Saints, Aitchison at full-back, Smith, Haig, Newlove and Sullivan, Martin and Goulding. Unchanged, this is the side that got St Helens to the quarter-final. Goldspink, Cunningham, O'Neill, Joint the captain, Sculthorpe, and Hammond the loose forward. And on the bench for the Saints, Long, Perolini, Pickavans and Anderson. The coach, Sean McRae. So in front of a full house here at Central Park, the first time we've said that for some time, Andy Farrell gets this Silk Cut Challenge Cup quarter-final underway. The two biggest names in the game here, and the prize at stake is a place in the semi-final. New faces in this Wigan side. One of them there, Robbie McCormack. There's another, Tony Mestrov, who hands it on to Mick Cassidy, who goes down underneath the challenge. And now Tony Smith. Wigan, remember, had the kick-off, and very cleverly they got the ball back from the kick-off. So they're having the first use of the football. And here's Andrew Farrell. He gets the ball away.
Good tactics, Eddie. It was a marvellous kick-off by Wigan. Set move. They caught St Helens napping.
And a high kick here from Andy Farrell. It's right under the post. This is a real test for Aitchison. But the St Helens full-back, Paul Aitchison, comes up with the goods.
Plenty of height there from Aitchison, and it had to be. It was a high kick, and you'll see that the big fella got there first.
Paul Aitchison, the Wigan full-back, St Helens full-back rather, he coped admirably with the one high kick underneath his own posts. Cunningham into the arms of O'Neill again.
Solid defence that. They've got to move up very quickly, and they're doing it. This is where the kicking game from this fella comes into play, and it's a fine one. Deep into the corner. Let's see what the chase is all about. It's a good one.
Radlinski's trapped, but he got away from Martin, and he flicked the ball inside as well to Mark Bell. Robinson then helped it on to Connolly. Connolly of Wigan, once of St Helens. Now Robinson again. Hauled down. Goal's been working so hard at the marker position. Trapping Bobby McCormack.
Unbelievable there from the prop forward, and what a bad mistake from Robinson. Well, we mentioned the fact that John Mooney likes his players to run from the dummy half, but you can see there that Robinson lost his composure and also lost the ball.
6 handling errors in the match so far, and Wigan have made 4 of them. And as a result of that 4th handling error, St Helens get the ball from the base of the scrum. This is Chris Smith. Good tackle, though, by the youngster Lee Gilmore.
Spotted it well, didn't he, Gilmore? He realised that the winger was coming back on the inside. But both sides trying to prise open this very strong defence. It's not easy. You can see how they're moving up quickly now.
Joint is grounded. Terrific tackle that by Holgate. Here's Goulding, now Martin. Out wide it goes to Sculthorpe. Sculthorpe then further wide. Andy Haig is all wrapped up, though, by Gary Connolly. Newlove. 2 of the best centres in the British game on view there. Connolly with a tackle, Newlove with the run. Goulding will hoist the kick out wide, looking for the winger Smith. The ball bounces back, chance here for Hammond, and Hammond gets over, but did he get it down? He did not.
Definitely lost it, but I'm not so sure it was the knock-on before that. I'm sure it hit a St Helens hand. Here it goes, yes, it certainly did. So it wouldn't have been a try anyway, but there was no way that Hammond got that ball down. Good positioning by the officials. But what a great kick, though, from Bobby Goulding. They did the run around to start with. I think he used a big prop forward, Brett Goldsby.
That incident on the last tackle, so it's the turnover, 10 metres away from the Wigan line. McCormack into the arms of Mestrov. Mestrov, last year from the London Broncos, of course. Now very much a Wiganer. Not the best pass, and Farrell did well to pick that up off the floor.
Well, if looks could kill, Farrell just turned around to Smith and says, come on. Far too many errors. You'll see here that Hammond had no chance getting it down.
Well, just at the moment, Wigan appear to be lacking a little bit of that usual cohesion. That's a kick downfield, though, from Farrell that Aitchison made a real porridge of.
Was in 2 minds with the fullback there. Oh, that's a high one from Paul. Aitchison felt that.
Sullivan with this run. Great run from Sullivan. He's away. And again he's away. He's got support from Smith inside. And Wigan has stretched him. Smith is racing to the post. And Smith will score for Saints. Terrific try for St Helens. Engineered by the run from Anthony Sullivan. And he got through 3 would-be tacklers. Smith was the quickest man in support. And he's got them dancing on the terraces. Chris Smith with the try for Saints. St Helens, first blood to the cup holders.
The wing combination. Wonderful work by Sullivan. He went past 1, then 2. Smith went far too high. He evaded another. He kept the cool head back on the inside. Radlinski. He's off, but he could not catch this fella. Chris Smith, he used the angle. Referee in an absolute beautiful position to watch what was going on. That is one of the best tries you will see. Combination of the 2 wingers. Outstanding play.
The first points of the Challenge Cup in 1998 conceded by this Wigan side. And so Leeds in 1947 remain the only club to have reached Wembley without conceding a point. 4-0 St Helens lead. And this kick from bang underneath the sticks from Bobby Goulding. It's 6. The cup holders 6, Wigan 0. Problems for John Money. Cassidy with the head guard on, about to come back. As Wigan, with that great record, of course, in the Challenge Cup, they won 8 consecutive years, 4 under the other coach, John Money. Good run from Moore, just spun off the would-be tackler. Joints all round him. Exasperation from the terraces. A rondo from Horton over the halfway line. And the ball has come clear, and it's play on, says Stuart Cummings, as Cunningham gets the pass away to Aitchison, who just loses the footing.
Will settle things down. That's what John Money's got to tell his Wigan side. They're trying to force the pass far too often. They're making mistakes. Cunningham is having a wow of a game out there.
Here's Sullivan again. Danger every time he gets the ball. Goulding. Wide it comes to Hammond. Further wide to Sculthorpe, who just slipped as he took that pass in, and it was an easy tackle in the end for Danny Moore. Now O'Neill.
Full credit to the St. Helens three-quarters. They're standing deep. They're giving themselves plenty of room.
Drop goal attempt from Goulding. Misses.
Good option.
Went for the 1 point.
Could have been vital. The experience, and he had plenty of time. There was no one within cooey of him